The galactic medical bay of the stellar harmony hummed with activity as Dr. Zixthra frantically manipulated holographic displays, her forearms moving in desperate synchronization. Her pale blue skin had taken on an alarming purple hue and her large obsidian eyes were wide with panic. "I'm dying," she wailed to her assistant, a bewildered Centaurian named Krell. "My cardiovascular system is failing. Temperature spiking. Respiratory distress." Krell checked the bioscanner, his antenna twitching in confusion. "Commander, your vitals show—" "You're perfectly healthy?" "Impossible," Zixthra gasped, clutching her chest. "Something is catastrophically wrong. It happened during the mating compatibility research with Lieutenant Morrison. The incident had occurred 3 standard hours earlier. As the Stellar Harmony's chief xenobiologist, Zixthra had volunteered for the Coalition's new cross-species cultural exchange program. The goal was simple: understand human reproduction and bonding practices to better integrate the newest members of the Galactic Coalition. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, a human male from Earth, had been her assigned research partner. The tall, muscular specimen had entered her laboratory with that peculiar expression humans called a smile. "So, Doc," he'd said with characteristic human casualness, "you wanted to learn about human courtship?" Zixthra had nodded professionally. "Indeed. The Coalition requires comprehensive data on human reproductive compatibility with other species. I've studied your biological literature, but practical observation is necessary." What she hadn't anticipated was the effect of his proximity. When Morrison had stepped closer, demonstrating what humans called flirting, something unprecedented had occurred. Her cardiac rhythm had accelerated dramatically, her dermis temperature had spiked by several degrees, her respiratory rate had doubled. "This is normal," Morrison had assured her, apparently oblivious to her physiological crisis. "It's called chemistry." "Chemistry?" Zixthra was a xenobiologist, not a chemist, but she knew enough to recognize that chemical reactions in biological systems could be deadly. When Morrison had touched her hand, a human gesture of affection, her entire nervous system had seemed to short-circuit. "Your pupils are dilated," he'd observed with interest. "And you're trembling. Are you okay?" She'd fled immediately to the medical bay. Now, as Krell ran another diagnostic scan, the medical AI chimed in with its analysis. "Commander Zixthra, cross-referencing your symptoms with the Human Cultural Database. Diagnosis: you have experienced what humans term attraction or having a crush." "A crush?" Zixthra's voice reached a frequency that made nearby equipment vibrate. "You mean my organs are being compressed? This is worse than I thought." "No, Commander," the AI explained patiently. "It's an emotional state. Humans experience these physiological responses during romantic interest. Elevated heart rate, increased body temperature, nervous trembling. These are normal." Zixthra stared at the display in disbelief. "Normal? Their species experiences cardiovascular and neurological distress as a feature of reproduction." "Apparently so," Krell confirmed, scrolling through the database. "It says here that humans actually enjoy this sensation. They write poetry about it, create art. Some even describe it as exhilarating." "Exhilarating?" Zixthra collapsed into a chair, her multiple hearts still beating erratically. "I thought I was experiencing system failure. How do humans survive courtship if they're constantly in medical distress?" The medical bay doors opened and Lieutenant Morrison entered, concern etched on his features. "Doc, Krell said you weren't feeling well. I wanted to check on you." Immediately, Zixthra's symptoms returned with renewed intensity. Her skin flushed deeper purple. Her hands trembled. One of her hearts skipped a beat. "See?" She gestured weakly at her bio-readings. "Catastrophic failure. And it intensifies in your presence." Morrison's expression shifted from concern to something else, something that made Zixthra's symptoms even worse. Was that amusement in his eyes? "Doc," he said gently, sitting beside her, "you're not dying. You're just feeling what humans feel when we like someone. It's not dangerous. I promise, not dangerous." Zixthra's voice squeaked. "My entire homeworld's reproduction is a calm, logical process involving biocontract negotiation and synchronized cellular division." "There's no cardiac arrhythmia involved," Morrison chuckled. Another human sound that caused her temperature to spike again. "Yeah, well, humans are a bit different. We're kind of intense about this stuff, but that's what makes it fun." "Fun?" Zixthra repeated the word as if it were in an alien language, though technically it was. Look, Morrison said, and his hand moved toward hers again. This time Zixthra didn't pull away, despite every medical instinct screaming warnings. These feelings, the nervousness, the excitement, the way your heart races, that's part of what makes us human. It's chaotic and scary and wonderful all at once. Zixthra's 3 eyelids blinked in rapid succession. Your species voluntarily subjects themselves to this physiological chaos? Every single day, Morrison confirmed with that devastating smile. And we wouldn't have it any other way. Krell coughed politely from across the room. The database also mentions something called dating, as a method humans use to manage these symptoms. Morrison's smile widened. That's right. Doc, would you like to try it? Maybe dinner tonight? I promise your vitals will stabilize. Eventually, Zixthra looked at her bio-readings, still showing the elevated responses that had terrified her an hour ago. By her species standards, she should be in intensive care. By human standards, apparently, she was just experiencing a normal Tuesday. This is the most illogical, inefficient, biologically reckless reproductive system I've ever encountered, she declared. Morrison waited. Dinner at 1900 hours, she finally said, her skin now cycling through several shades of purple. But I'm bringing a portable medical scanner. Deal, Morrison agreed, standing to leave. At the door, he turned back. And Doc? Welcome to being human, even if you're not one. As he left, Zixthra's multiple hearts continued their chaotic rhythm. Krell watched the bio-readings with fascination. Should I note in my report that human mating processes are contagious across species? He asked. Zixthra groaned, already dreading the next cultural exchange meeting. Humans, she decided, were the most terrifying species in the galaxy. And somehow that made Lieutenant Morrison even more attractive. Her medical scanner beeped another alarm. She silenced it with perhaps more force than necessary. This, she realized, was going to be a very long assignment.